Shabbat Shalom and Hanukkah Sameach. This week in Shul, we celebrate Hanukkah, as well as read Parshat Miketz. It's a rare event on a Shabbat morning when we will have 3 Sifrei Torah to read from. It's Rosh Chodesh, the new month of Tevet, will be celebrated as well. So a busy day. And I want to link at least Shabbat and Hanukkah stories together a little bit. In Miketz, we are in the center of the Joseph story, very famous story. Last week we read up to Joseph being in jail. As we open up Miketz, Pharaoh is having terrible dreams about cows and corn, and the cupbearer, the wine steward, who serves Pharaoh, remembers that Joseph had interpreted a dream for him correctly. And so Joseph is called before Pharaoh. He makes a prediction of 7 years of abundance and 7 years of famine to come following that. And Pharaoh assigns him the task of being a viceroy and of managing a rationing project, which is successful. Because later we find, some years later, Jacob and his family still living in Canaan. Canaan's a terrible place to be when there is a dry spell. There is no river like the Nile in Egypt in order to provide food. And so they are starving. And they come down to Egypt and they ask Joseph for food. And this creates this wonderful storytelling moment where the brothers who had kidnapped him and sent him off into slavery now stand before him. And it says, just Joseph remembered his dreams from when he was a kid, right? When 11 sheaves of wheat bowed to his sheaf of wheat, when the sun and the moon and 11 stars bowed down to his star. And Rashi says this is the fulfillment of the dreams, the brothers coming and bowing before him. But Ramban Nachmanides says, no, actually, that's not what's going on here. You see, what's going to happen is Joseph is going to start manipulating his brothers, right? And there's a couple of common explanations for why he does that. One is to test, to see if they are better now than they were before, right? Have the brothers really changed? And he overhears them speaking, and it seems like they have changed. And ultimately, next week, we'll see the ultimate change when Judah offers himself up for Benjamin. So it could be a test. Another common interpretation is that it's vengeance, right? That Joseph is still mad for them kidnapping him and sending him into slavery. And so he's manipulating them to take vengeance on them. And ultimately, he wants to manipulate it so that Benjamin will stay with him. The brothers will all leave. And Nuf said, that's all done. But Nachmanides says, there's something bigger going on here. Joseph realizes that his dreams have not yet come true. The dream he had of the wheat says that 11 sheaves of wheat were there, and Benjamin is missing. And so he's manipulating things to make sure that Benjamin comes. And the second dream said the sun, the moon, and the stars. So his father needs to be there as well, and the rest of his family. And so he's manipulating things so that they'll come and bow before him. Not because he wants it, but because that's what the dream demands. So Joseph understands that the dreams must come true, that certain things in history just have to happen. Certain things are destined. And so he is manipulating things to make that destiny come true under his parameters. Right? If his family needs to come and bow before the prince of Egypt, it could happen in much worse ways. Maybe Pharaoh would declare war on Canaan and bring them back in chains. Joseph is actually fulfilling this destiny in the gentlest way possible. Joseph understands that some things just have to happen, that God's presence can be sensed in history, and sometimes we are part of that history. It is a sense that the Maccabees had as well. We tend to glorify them. Oh, yes, they rose up and they fought off the Syrian Greeks, and what glory. But what the Maccabees did was miserable. They lived in caves, in the hills, in the cold. It wasn't pleasant. Fighting in war isn't pleasant. When they came down, their ragtag army was stomped on by elephants, faced bronze spears and the like. It was awful. Nobody does that by choice. They do it when they understand it is their destiny to redeem the Holy Land. And so they did. The Maccabees did, just as the modern Maccabees, the Zionists who settled Israel in the early part of the 20th century did. Joseph's story and the Hanukkah story remind us that you can sense God in history. That you can even sense God working in your own destiny. You just need to be attuned to looking for it, looking for God in the broad strokes of what happens to not only the Jewish people, but all people in the world, and also to listen to our neshamas and to look at our own lives and understand what is meant to be. We can fight our destinies, but as Joseph understood, inevitably, what must come to pass will come to pass. And so our job is to embrace our destinies. And we're happier when we do so, when we listen to our neshama and we get that sense of who we are supposed to be and what we are supposed to be, and we work to fulfill it in the best way we know how. That helps us live a life with purpose. It helps us sense the beauty of our own journey and our path and understand why life is so meaningful. That truly shines light into the darkness of this time of year, like our menorah, our Hanukkah candles, and the darkness that life sometimes feels when we don't know if we matter or what our destiny or purpose is. Dig deep, it's in there. We do have a destiny, just like Joseph and his brothers, just like Judah and his Maccabees. We are part of something bigger. Let's embrace it and shine our light into the world. Shabbat Shalom.